Whether you're here for validation of your team's class or out of curiosity, maybe even watching to try to defend your team's draft, I hope you're excited to look at the biggest winners and losers of the NFL draft, and let's get into it. So let's start with some honorable mentions. The Bears had a good draft, but it's hard not to win the draft with pick 1 and 9. No point of talking about them for too long. Chargers being able to pick up all at 5 and still getting a top receiver at 34 is great in my opinion. Very good draft for them too. Rams had a very sneaky good draft, getting Jared Verse and Braden Fisk to fill out the D-line that has a big hole left in it. Cameron Kinchens and Blake Corum were solid pickups too. So our first winner here, we're going to start off with the Eagles. Even with a later first-round pick, the Eagles still managed to have a great draft. They got 2 of the top 4 corners in the class without having to trade up in the first. The Eagles have clawed back into their Super Bowl window, it feels like. Down the board, they might not have done too much. I think that Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean carry the draft a bit, but the pickup of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is very solid, and adding some offensive line depth was very good too. I also think that the pick of Jalix Hunt Will Shipley is a good back too, and I think going running back in the 4th was fine for them, even though it wasn't a need. So my grade is going to be A-. I think this might be a little bit of an undergrade. This might really be an A+ draft, honestly. It feels a little bad to give them A-. But I just think that the board, after their first 2 picks, just wasn't quite as good as their first 2 picks. And I think that they missed out on some of the better interior linemen. So our first loser here. There were not a lot of losers in this class, so it's very hard to say that anyone lost this draft. But I'm going to have to say the Raiders lost at least the first round. I actually think the Raiders had a good draft, and it sucks to have to put them here. They did get one of the best tight end prospects ever, Brock Bowers, but they felt really linked to Michael Penix Jr. Also, tight ends in the first round normally don't quite pan out. I think it'll be different with Bowers, but it is just something to kind of mention and put out there. They still have Minshew, so losing out on Penix isn't too bad, I guess. They also got a steal of a lineman in the second round with Jackson Powers Johnson. DeMar Glaze is someone I don't quite know much about. I think that the Camryon Richardson is a bit of a reach, and that Chris Abrams-Drain, who is still on the board, is better. Tommy Eichenberg is solid too, though, as a pick, but I would argue that Steel Chambers is better, even though he went undrafted. The rest of their draft is not all that notable. Sorry, Raiders fans, but someone just had to go here. They didn't really lose the draft, though. Like, I was looking at all the drafts. You could put the Browns maybe here because they didn't have a first-round pick, but even down the board, they were solid. But honestly, you got 2 first-round talents, but Brock Bowers is a tight end, so maybe that's a little less valuable. Bowers will still be good, but I don't think he'll quite move the needle for the Raiders while still missing other key positions. And remember, Waller was really good with the Raiders, but he didn't do much to save the Raiders either. So it feels like tight end isn't a position that quite carries a team. But Jackson Powers Johnson was a great pickup too. So up next to my next winner, I'm going to have the Bills. This is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but I think the Bills actually won the draft or were one of the winners. The direction they're going and having to go is a light roster reset, and that's what they're doing so far. They drafted positions of need such as Cole Bishop safety, Keon Coleman, Dwayne Carter, Cedric Van Pran-Gagner. Those are all players that fill their biggest needs. I think Keon Coleman is a very good pickup, and trading back did get them extra value. Cole Bishop was one of my underrated prospects, I thought, and I think he'll be very good for them. The selection of Dwayne Carter is going to help bulk up an average defensive line. Pran-Gagner is a solid center too, and someone they did need. Daquan Hardy was a solid later day pickup too. The grade for their draft is going to be B+ or A-. I think a B+ is very fair for them though. I think that they are resetting a bit and made a selection that will help that. They basically left their window, and instead of trying to stay in it, like many teams will struggle and to do so, they're kind of resetting their bowl window here with cutting some of their players, trading back a little bit in the first to still get a player that seemed like they really wanted to. Just very good here from the Bills. So up to my next loser, I have the Falcons. Sorry to do it, But our first loser, or I guess it is the second loser on the list, is the Falcons. I get wanting the plan after Kirk, but this draft is so talented that I don't see the need to go QB right there. I'm not a Penix hater, and if Kirk goes down, it's a solid option. But it's another injury-prone QB to back up an older QB coming off an Achilles tear. Maybe with Penix playing less the next couple seasons, his body will heal a bit, but I'm not a fan. Also, I think they took Rook or Horo early. I know that's not quite how you say it, but I feel like he could have gone in the 50s, but they traded up to get him at 35. Down the board, they got solid players such as Brandon Dorlus and Braden Trice, though. Casey Washington is also a solid receiver, but man, I just don't think this was a great draft. We're going to go D minus for them. I give it a D minus just because I think they got solid players down the board, but I really feel like they threw away their first two selections. And it was a solid draft otherwise, but just really threw away the first two picks in my opinion. And the Colts are going to be my final winner for today. If you guys are interested, I'll make another winners and losers video. I think they had a very elite class. Latu at pick 15 is a steal, although they did have a pick of any defensive player. I think Latu is the best for the Colts situation. You pick up A.D. Mitchell in the mid to late second round. That's another steal. Tanner Bortolini was a late round gem in my opinion. I think the Colts are getting another stud in their O-line there. I don't hate the Matt Gonsalves pick either though. Picking 3 DBs in a row from the 5th to the 6th round is slightly questionable, but I won't hate on it entirely. Anthony Gold is a solid receiver they got in the 5th round, but I don't expect all too much out of him. And the grade I'm going to give him is an A. I believe that a lot more teams did, like obviously, I didn't go over a lot of teams, but I think a lot of teams did good, but I think the Colts also did very good. And they just did so much to improve an already borderline playoff team, in my opinion. So that's going to be it for my rankings video. I did originally also have the Niners as a loser, but it just feels kind of weak. I've kind of been thinking about it since I did write this up. So I will go over the grade I did give them was a C, and it feels low, but I don't want to give them too much credit. I think Pearsall pick was a bit high, and I think they could have gotten him potentially with their second round pick. It felt like a huge reach, but the rest of their draft was good enough where I just didn't quite, I just didn't want to go fully over what I had written up for them. And it's kind of the same situation as the Raiders, but I think the Raiders got a less valuable position than receiver in the first round, even though Brock Bowers is very good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys come back for whatever the next video I make on the draft is. And